All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me here in Norway. It's my first time in Norway. I think it's an awful place, but I'm willing to adjust. I'm here today to talk about Alien Isolation. Just a quick check of the room. Hands up if you've played Alien Isolation. Okay, hands up if you haven't played Alien Isolation. Hands up if you'd like a free copy. Vultures. Vultures, all of you. Support the game industry. So, my name is Gary Napper. I was a design director at Creative Assembly. I recently left, and I'm now working for Sony in PlayStation VR, and it's all very exciting and happy. But everybody still wants to hear lots about Alien, so I'm here talking about Alien because everyone's still got questions. So hopefully this will enlighten you on some of the practices we've done. Now, just a bit of a preamble before this. This is largely a talk about how we did a lot of the systems on Alien. It's largely for people to understand the reasons we did things in the game and also some interesting approaches we took. It might not suit your game. Some of the opinions I have are based on things we've had to do. So take everything I'm saying as things we've discovered and done rather than this is how you should make your game. So Alien Isolation, for those of you who don't know, came out last year, a year ago. It was over 4 years in the making, which is absolutely a huge amount of time. But we were nominated for over 60 industry awards, including 6 Baftas, which included Best Game Design, which I'm very happy about for that. And we released on 5 platforms. For a lot of the people on the team, this was a huge effort to get it out on all those platforms at the same time. But as some of you know, we made our own engine to make this game, which was, again, as Claire said yesterday in her talk, don't ever try and make your own engine and your own game at the same time unless you're 100% sure you've got the resources and time to do it. We thought we were, and I still don't think we were, but we just managed to pull it off. IGN described our game as the bravest AAA game in years, which is absolutely awesome. I'm very happy with that. So what I'm going to talk about to start with is how we created the alien. Now, at the very beginning of the game, we knew we wanted to create the original alien from the first film. We wanted to make a game where just one alien was scary. So we said, right, we're going to create the feeling of being hunted by that one creature. Because we'd seen loads of games where there was loads of aliens running around and you gun them down with M56 smart guns and they explode all over the place. And we're like, well, in that first film, just hiding from this one creature without being able to deal with it was such a strong emotion. That's what we wanted to get. So we said, right, what is the first film like? What's the alien from the first film like, and how are we going to do this? So we thought about the key characteristics, and we said to people, what's the alien like? And people thought, well, he's fast, he's very, physically powerful, he's aggressive, he's intelligent, he's a very skilled hunter, he's stealthy and patient, pure of purpose, pitiless, ruthless, and unsympathetic, unpredictable, but he's also omnipresent and could be absolutely anywhere. So we're like, yeah, that's the alien we want to build. So quite often, you're working on something, you want to get the reference for that, so we decide, right, we are going to look at the original film and see if we can find examples of this that we can use. So I'm just going to drag this screen across to the other screen. And I'll show you a clip from the film. Jazz hands. So, turns out, actually, it wasn't much of that in the first film. My clicker's not working. Is my mouse on that screen? There we go. There we go. So, we looked at the key characteristics that were actually in the film and tried to describe from what we saw on the screen, and he stays still a lot, he hides, he's rarely on screen, he's actually on screen for less than 3 minutes in the entire film, he sleeps a lot, he grabs people when they back into him, he's lazy. I was like, well, no, actually, that's not the alien we wanted to make for our game. So we were like, well, how are we going to do this? How are we going to hit upon creating this creature? And actually, we realized that a lot of these characteristics were part of the film's art and craft to make you believe these things. And actually, what we need to aim for was what people think the alien is like. Because, they've seen multiple reference points for the film. They've seen aliens, they've read comics, they've played video games, and everyone has an idea in their head of what the alien is like. And when we hit upon the kind of think idea of, creating what people think it should be, that's where we actually started to get a lot of momentum on the project. So we started with a behavioral approach. We know we wanted the alien to be non-scripted. We didn't want the alien to for you to die and then just learn its pattern and play again. We knew if there was lots of dying that it would become very, very predictable. Patterns mean learning a system. So if I suddenly learn what an alien's going to do and see it go around the corner and then I die and I come back and I go, I just wait for him to come around that corner, I have more information than the creature, and that means I feel more powerful, so the creature becomes less scary. And actually a nice side product of this is a lot of replay value, because we can play through the game several times and still not know what it's going to do. So the question we posed to our tech and our design and programmers was, how do we build a systemic, non-scripted alien? And one of our programmers was like, well, I think we can do it with senses. The idea that there's an AI in the world and it reacts to the senses it sees and hears and smells, and it understands light and dark and things like that. And we're like, okay, that sounds cool. And that will drive behaviours. So it have certain behaviours that get informed by these senses. And we're like, okay, that works. And also the player has abilities that it can play off of. We're like, okay, this sounds good. And then we also need to communicate to the player how this stuff happens. Because we wanted to make a game based on a film that had a very, very strong visual style, we didn't want to put UI all over the screen and holograms in the world and make it feel not like that 1979 classic. So we had to make sure all of the communication came from the character and the behavior itself. So here's a question for the group. You're in an area and you don't know the area. So we put you in like a shopping mall or a car park or, parking lot or a big conference hall you've never been in. It's just you, and we say, okay, you've got to find someone else. So how would you go about finding someone in a place you've never been? Was that a hand or just an itchy nose?
First I got to ask, do you know who this person you're trying to find is?
Do you know the person? Yeah. Man, there's always one question like that.
If it's just someone random, then I would just walk around trying to look for them.
Good answer.
If
it's somebody random, that's good. So it's somebody random, you don't know them, and the answer was I would just look around randomly, seeing if I could find them. And that's pretty much what we hit on. We're just going to search around and look at the area. You'll find areas to explore because you don't know the space. You'll look around, you'll say, okay, well, there's a big open room there could be someone in there. But if you hear or see something, you're like, aha, there's definitely something in this room because I heard something clatter, and you'll search a bit more carefully. And if you hear footsteps or a cough, you're like, that's a human being. I understand those sounds, I'm going to investigate it. And that's how we designed the initial search behavior of the alien. This is actually quite interesting because in previous games, you just have the concept of something hearing a noise. And the AI doesn't know the difference between like a glass breaking or a window breaking or a loud siren or footsteps. So a lot of people, when they played the game, were like, "Oh, how come I'm running and the alien knows?" It's like, well, if you heard someone running, you know that's someone running. Of course, you're going to know. So it was kind of a challenge for us to be able to communicate that to the player. So these were the basic rules that formed our stalk function that we built the alien behavior around. A very, very initial design for this was that the alien would start its stalk behavior. It would detect something in the world. It would then up its behavior level to go, right, I'm going to search a little more carefully now and a little more detailed. It would then react and investigate whatever it saw, if it saw something it could react to. So up here we have I got a laser? Yes, the future. It confirms the target, and it would attack them. And then the alien would kill the player, and that's the end of the game. Well, not quite. The idea of the game loop here was that once the alien would try to attack you or became aware of you, you could use an ability to somehow fend off the alien or just prolong your survival for just a couple more minutes, like use a distraction to get away, use something in the environment to help you, use something you've crafted in your backpack, anything that could just stave off that disaster for a few more minutes. So then the alien would react to that and then retreat. And that was our kind of first loop we took at it. And then it was like, well, we don't want to make just this creature that you throw a bone for and it runs off because then you've got the more power. So the idea was, if the alien could learn and react to what you did, suddenly the game changes completely. Because as a player, you're used to going, oh, I make this noise over here, the soldier runs over there, I go over here. If you suddenly make that noise a second time and the creature doesn't react, you're like, this is something different. And as a player, the whole world just goes like that, and you're like, I've got to really figure out what's going on here. So then what you have is the player side. The player learning that the alien's not going to fall for that trick anymore, and then changing their approach. And then we get this whole loop kicking off through there. So that was a very early one. This is kind of midway through development of how we planned it out. Now, for all the AI programmers and people really into their AI, this is not in any way a description of how the system works, but it was a description of how the team could understand what it was roughly doing. There's several states and layers and leafs that trigger off depending on the state of the alien and what he's seeing. but this is the rough flow of what would happen. And there's a few behaviors in here I really, really like. Now, one of these is a breakout. Now, we needed a way for the designers in the game to go, well, if the alien's being too aggressive or we want to end a behavior, we'll just turn on a flag and we'll get the alien to run away. We made a decision very early on that made it really, really difficult to make the game, but we said we never wanted to teleport the alien. We always wanted to make sure you felt like the alien was getting where he needed to get and he didn't just appear behind you and it never felt unfair. So that was something we never did in the game. So breakout was an instruction to get him to move away. Threat aware is something, it was a very kind of subtle system that some players didn't get and some did. I'm really happy with the end result because I've never seen it in a game. And I think anything you can do in a game that's never been seen before is amazing. And the idea was that, spoilers, you get a flamethrower in the game. So you use the flamethrower, the alien comes screaming around the corner and you're like, aha! You know, tides have turned this time, mister. You flame the alien squeals and run away, and you're like, oh, right, this game's going to be easy. You reload, you walk down the corridor, the alien comes back and he stares at you, and you go, ha ha ha, you aim your flamethrower, and the alien steps back and stays out of flamethrower distance. And you go, and then you go, and the alien steps back and he kind of stalks around you, and you have the exit to the level behind you, and you're backing slowly away from the alien, trying to keep him at bay, and you put it down and he charges for you, and you're like, he's learned fire. He understands how this works now. And suddenly you have to think about fire as a resource that you're using to prolong your life again, instead of this one-kill thing that's just going to get rid of the alien. So I was really happy with the way that came out. And then we had this withdraw idea. Now, at one point during development, we had a slight bug with the game where the alien would get stuck in the ceiling vents or stuck underground. And we couldn't get him off the nav mesh. And bugs happen during development. This kind of thing's common. But on that playthrough, we had some of our QA guys come back and say, "Oh my God, that level was so intense. The alien was there the whole time, and he knew I was there, and he just didn't come to attack me." And we're like, "Huh? Yes, he did." Definitely, that's exactly what he was doing. So we created this behavior, which was that when the alien couldn't really find you, or he'd been exploring a while, or you'd got too far away, he'd kind of retreat backstage and just prowl around, and he'd make noises up in the air, and he'd still have an awareness of what was going on. So if you made a loud noise or fired a gun or something, he'd come down to investigate. But that was the situation of the game where we're saying the alien's not gone, he's still there, but he's not in the world with you, and it just gives you a little breather to understand. And then there was the assault behavior. So we needed to make a behavior set that lasted the entire game, and I'll go on to that in a minute. But the final stage we came up with was this idea that you've been playing the game for 8 hours, you've seen the alien a bunch, he's seen you a bunch. It seems kind of strange if every single time he's just like, aha, what's that? Is it a human? So we said at this point, he knows who you are, you know who he is, and you're just going to try and attack each other. So at that point, he goes into his overdrive, trying to find different angles to get at you, trying to trick you and hide in vents, and that's the kind of end state for the behavior for the game. Now, this obviously developed a hell of a lot more for the final game, and this is a very, very basic view of it. I'm not going to tell you exactly how it works, because that's a bit too much behind the curtain, and it kind of spoils the experience, but I will say, when we do play the game, even as developers ourselves, we have to play it exactly the same as you guys, because there's no way of knowing where he's going to be or what he's going to do. Even though we made the systems, he still surprises us. And there's been situations on the team where veteran programmers are sitting down with their headphones on, and they go, "Gah!" throw the headphones down and jump, and the whole team looks at them and goes, "Ha ha." So I think it's a testament to the systems those guys have built. So yeah, many, many more behaviors went in the final. So we had that all working and going, and then we realized that we needed to do a lot on the telegraphing of the character. So we didn't, as I said before, we didn't want any holograms in the world or a predictable pattern. We didn't want the Metal Gear Solid, the alien's seen me, because it breaks the immersion of the game. So that meant we had to use a lot of audio cues. So we made very specific sounds that the alien could make so the player could learn, like a kind of pet, like a creature, what it was up to. So it makes certain sounds when it's searching. It makes a sound when it's lost all trace, and it became incredible because when you were playing the game and you were hiding, you'd hear this growl, and then you'd hear him go, and then disappear up a vent. You're like, he didn't find me. Well, okay, so that's the sound he makes when he doesn't find me, and then next time you hear that sound, you're like, okay, I'm get the fuck out of here. And you can learn that stuff and figure out what the alien's doing. He also makes a noise when he's seen something. Very early on, it's a kind of trait of programmers to try and make the actual perfect system they can make, and our AI guy did an amazing job. The AI team did an incredible job on creating this alien that would hunt you and kill you instantly, and it found you wherever you were, and it was the most non-fun thing ever, because you just played the game and it was like, poof, oh, well, and now I'm dead. So the idea that he's seen something, just putting in a little screech and a little roar when he's going to attack made all the difference, because you're creeping down a corridor, you hear this roar. Sometimes it's just enough of a split second to go, I'm dead. Other times it's enough to go, close the door and give it legs. So it was just enough to get a gameplay in there and also notify you that you're about to die, which made it a lot better experience. And yeah, so sorry, that was the attacking. The seen something was giving you just a quick notification that maybe your leg's sticking out or maybe he can see you and you need to retreat. So that was very, very handy. We also telegraphed it by movement. So if you're moving, if the alien had seen you and he was very aggressive, he'd be pounding around, and if he was creeping and he hadn't quite seen you, he'd have a very different animation set. And this hugely impacted the sound design for the game as well. Because if you think about a game where you have to listen to the enemy to figure out what it's doing, and suddenly you're in an area with hissing pipes and alarms going off and flashing lights, you're like, I can't hear what's going on. And that has a huge impact on difficulty. And that forced our designers to work really, really closely with the audio team. And it's probably a big reason why the audio team does such an incredible job of that and won all the awards. So yeah, difficulty and similar sounds as well. This is brilliant. So we try to stick to canon as often as possible, but as we established at the beginning, sometimes it's more important to fulfill the idea of what the alien is instead of being 100% strict to what that canon is. So one of the things we had was vents. We had the original big twisty metal vents from the film. I always get a little shiver when they go because I'm always afraid someone's going to catch their finger in it, and that would be horrific. And we had the big grinding noise of it. So when you walk past this vent, it would go, and it was like, oh, it's a vicious noise. But it seemed strange that that noise would happen in the environment and the alien wouldn't react to it. So we're like, okay, well, let's make the alien react to it. And then the game became unplayable, because every time you used the vent, it made this horrific noise and the alien came and killed you. So the audio guys had a really good idea to redesign the sound, and they made the sound very, very similar to the alien breathing. So when you're creeping down a corridor and you trigger a vent, it goes, you're like, and everyone got, very, very made jumps. It was a really good decision from those guys to do that. So the alien movement, we knew we needed to telegraph its behavior by animation. So the animation team created this system with the programmers that was based on layered animation and blend sets, and there was so much work that went into it. But just like knowing the canon of what we felt was right for the game, it was also really, really easy for us to tell what didn't look right in the game. So some of the first sets we put in, we were like, well, it's a guy in a rubber suit. Sorry to spoil it for everybody, the alien was a guy in a rubber suit. So when we put it in, some of the first runs looked like an ice hockey player. We're like, doesn't quite look right. And some of it looked like too creepy, where it's like, like, that's not quite the alien. So very much on the team, a lot of our feedback came from an honest, open feedback loop where people would say, that doesn't look quite right, and I think that looks like this. And we were critical enough of ourselves on the team that we could take this feedback and loop it back in and end up with something that actually looked a lot more believable. One huge decision we made, we didn't think it was that big at the time, but apparently internet said otherwise, was the alien knees. Now, we discovered early on when we were playing the game, if you were hiding under something and the alien plodded past, it had human legs. And seeing human legs walk past, even if we made them creepy, it looked like someone being creepy rather than an alien. So we decided the animators decided to reverse the knee joint and make it look a bit more animal and a little more insect-like and a little less human for the game. And actually, it worked incredibly, and we really, really liked it, and also made it feel like the alien could get to where it needed to get very, very quickly. It suddenly became a lot more powerful. However, the people on the internet completely went mental. Like, you're changing the canon, that's not the alien, rah! And we had all these updates, and we're like, what do we do with this? Like, when people are going to play the final game, they're really going to get it. But luckily, when the final game came out and people played it, everybody was cool with it and nobody complained, right? Well, mostly. Everybody was really happy with the final vision we got, so I was very cool with that. So what else have we got? Audio communicating the mood, we've got animation and movement, we've got behaviors allowing for the systemic searching. The next step was adapting the player actions. So we've got our rough systems in place, but we need to make it for the whole game. So this is a timeline for the entire game. So start over here, end over there. We have the alien behaviors, and the idea was the alien was going to get smarter as the game progresses. So we created all these systems, but used a very small amount of them at the beginning, and then gradually unlocked them as the player went through the game. We also have player abilities. Now this is the things the player can do and learn, things they can collect and build, all the little things they get to do in the game, and weapons included. And then we have the alien understanding of the abilities. So you can use a flare so many times before the alien kind of gets smart to it. I think one of the cool things is you throw a flare and the alien chases after it. It's only a few times more where you throw the flare and the alien goes to where it came from. And as a player, you're like, oh no. And it really makes you think about using your things in really careful ways, and it feels a lot more playing against someone else than just an AI in a game. We also had environmental interactions. These are things like hacking, vents, hiding under tables, switches in the world, power cells, the rewire system. There was lots of environmental things that could go on, and obviously the player would be able to use that to their advantage. And there was also narrative events. We needed to hit in the key parts of the story. We knew roughly where they were going to happen on the station. We knew where we'd set our scenes and everything, so this all occurred as we knew it would. And this gave us this huge, huge tool set of things to use for the entire game. So at the beginning we were like, well, we're not sure how we're going to make this whole stretch, but actually it turns out when you add all of this stuff into the game, it gives you a really nice tool set as designers to go, right, my mission is set here, I know I've got access to this, I can use this for the first time and build some experiences around that. So yeah, we had to build levels around the alien. So we had a non-scripted alien, it could be anywhere. This wasn't a game where we had a corridor the alien would be in and then one it wouldn't, it could go absolutely anywhere. Narrative events still needed to occur, and there were other enemies present in the world as well. The player could also go anywhere. As soon as you'd been from a station, you could get that train right the way back and explore the station as well. So the level design was re-entrant. You could go back, you could go anywhere on the whole station was there to be explored. So, another question for the group. Level designers can traditionally think in a very, very scripted way, like junior movie directors. They go, this happens, and the guy walks in, and an explosion! And they've got this vision in their head for what the player's going to experience through their eyes. When actually, when you're working with systemic AI, you can't build levels like that, because you're like, the player's going to walk in there, what if the alien's there? Okay, so the player's going to walk in here, and at some point this could happen, and you start thinking about it in a more sandbox kind of way. The player could do this, they may do this, and then this probably needs to happen. Environments have to support this. So you build your AI first, and you construct your game around it. You have to think about layouts and the routes, your heights, distances, hiding, environmental loops, lines of sight, and there's no longer just this is an encounter area where something happens. It needs to be thought about absolutely everywhere. So when the alien can be anywhere, the level design has to support it. Alternate routes must exist. Preset events need to occur. We randomize them where possible. Collectible items are not always in the same place. There's vents, underfloor routes, rooms, exploration, and that means a lot of environmental loops. So, scenario for the group. You have a narrative event where the alien needs to be in this location here. But the player, it needs to trigger off when the player goes past this arrow. In the area previous to it, the alien needs to be hunting the player. So the alien could be anywhere. The alien could also be ahead of them. So the question is, for the group, hands up if you want to try and answer this, how do you get the alien to be at X without it teleporting or looking broken?
You make an interesting sound or something that makes the alien want to check out the area.
Ah, so you trigger a sound to make the alien want to check out the area. And then that will bring the alien in. Okay, so we have the player wandering through here, we trigger the sound, and then the alien comes down, yeah? Via the sound. Yeah. Right, that's the suggestion. So we're going to trigger a sound when we get to here that makes the alien want to come and investigate. So the cutscene is the alien needs to be here ahead of the player. So if the alien isn't in that room, the alien's going to come from behind. So at that point, it wouldn't quite work. But it might work. Vents. So you say, so the suggestion was vents. So we bring the alien down from a vent. There's a couple of ways we could do that. If we say, when the player crosses this threshold here, we put the alien up in the ceiling, and that way when you come back down here, the alien comes out of the wall or busts out or needs to be where he is, right? There's a couple of issues with that you have to work around. I'm a player, I cross this threshold, and the alien disappears, and I've been playing the game enough, I look around, I'm like, the alien's not here. Huh. All right, this is awesome. And the game loses all its tension. So the alien would have to come back down in that stage. So you think, right, if I cross that line and they can bring the alien back down, what if I go back and we put the alien back up? And you go, okay, so there's safe zones where you go in, the alien disappears. If you come out, he goes back down. every single player in the world will figure that out as soon as someone finds it and puts it on YouTube. It will just go everywhere. And suddenly people are like, hey, I've got yo-yo control over the alien just by moving forward and backwards. And all you need is one player to find that, and then the whole experience is broken. Any other suggestions? Magic? We're working on that. Oh, there's some arms at the back. Sorry, I can't quite see because of the lights. Right at the back there. Special doors for the alien so it can move through the level. Was that the suggestion? Yeah, something like ventilation. So it's kind of like that with the vent system, the ventilation. So we can move the alien backstage, but the feeling is going to be, when can we get the alien back there and forward? So the actual answer is, we've got some possible answers. We can trigger the alien to withdraw at a certain point, which is the trigger box getting them into the vents idea. We can have gameplay failsafes for that, though, because we need to make sure the player hasn't got full control over the alien. We could trigger a sequence that keeps the alien locked in place, keeps the player locked in place, whilst the alien is repositioned. So the idea is, I cross a threshold, and the alien busts past me into the room, and then that's how we start the sequence. Because that will work in most conditions. If the alien has seen me and is chasing me, it just blends straight into that. If the alien has seen me and it kills me, I'm dead. If the alien hasn't seen me and I haven't seen him and I cross it, I get a big jump when he jumps through me. I'm like, okay, so actually we can make that work in quite a few ways. We can also only trigger the sequence if the player is in the room and the alien is in this position and performing, so the alien hasn't seen you and is under a very certain condition. This is quite an easy one to do, but also it could mean the player wanders around that room for absolutely ages trying to finish the level, and the scene hasn't triggered because the alien's not in the right mood. And then the one I just suggested, which is blending the alien into X from behind the player. And the actual answer is all of them. We did so many different tricks to get the alien to do what it needed to do, because as soon as we settle for one solution, players will figure it out. Your players are very, very smart. They're a lot smarter than you think you'll be. When you design, you go, heh, 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 they'll never get this. And you'll show it to one of your fellow designers, and they're like, oh, yeah, we did that. You're like, so people do figure out your stuff very, very quickly. So the point of this game was making the alien feel unpredictable, so we used a whole bunch of tricks in different situations to do these things. A common question I had on this was, I didn't make any noise, but the alien just came and found me. This game is bullshit. How did he know? I'm not playing this anymore, and they get very, very aggressive. Question for the group, does anyone know what this is? I'm shocked. Ah, Counter-Strike, we've got a few Counter-Strikes. Correct. This is DE Dust, a level from Counter-Strike. Who's played this level? There we go. Right. The first time you played that level, did you go and crouch behind that crate and then get headshot from somewhere and go, this is bullshit, how did they know where I was? What was going on here? Everyone's saying yes in their heads, come on. This is one of the most overplayed levels ever in existence, and people who know it and have played it to death absolutely know exactly where you're going to be, because they look down that corridor, and if you didn't go through that corridor, then you're clearing coming through there. So if I throw a grenade through there, you're going to hit that point and get killed. I know if I snipe through that wall, 9 times out of 10 there's somebody there. Now I'm not saying the alien's this smart, but that's kind of how the alien works in its searching behavior. So imagine this is a set of rooms connected to a corridor. The alien will move through the rooms one by one and go, oh, nothing in there, nothing in there, can't see anything in that one, there's nothing in that one, I'm pretty sure the player's in this room, and it will do a detailed search of the area it knows there's nothing in. So quite often, people will hide in a locker in a room that isn't the best place to be, the alien will come in, grab the locker door, rip it open, and kill you. So what did we learn? Lockers are not always your friend. A lot of people enjoy hiding in lockers and feeling very, very tense, but whenever I play the game, I try not to use them. The alien does figure out your use of lockers, and the alien's behavior is actually based on what he can perceive. So if he sees you hiding in a locker a few times, he now knows you can use lockers. Think about that. I'm going to change pace a bit now and talk quickly about the world interactions. We had a lot of mini-games in the world and things like hacking and rewiring and stuff, so I want to go into quickly the development of the hacking. Lo-fi sci-fi was kind of a pitch for this game. We wanted to feel very, very much about the 1979 view of the future. The art team had a brilliant rule where they said they wouldn't put anything in the game that couldn't have been built on the set in 1979, and that was really, really solid. It had to be retro-futuristic, be authentic, and a very minimalist presentation. So we needed a hacking system that we could challenge as we scale the game. It fit the narrative and setting, the player could get better at it, and it sit well in the context of the world. That is my desk, or was my desk, at Creative Assembly. You will notice Lego. Oh, right, Lego. This is the first prototype of the hacking game. I built it in Lego, I took it around the team, I got people to play it, and the idea was pretty simple. I collect old arcade machines. I have a garage, or garage, and there's 5 or 6 arcade machines in there, and when they go wrong, I have to test them with an electric meter. And I thought, well, actually, that's kind of how you would hack a door in 1979. Most of these machines are from like early 80s, late 70s, so that's how you would get through a circuit. So I thought, okay, well, what if this was a whole circuit, and there's lights on the top, and you test these points at the bottom, and if you find 2 that are connected to the same light, you can blow that light. And I was like, oh, okay, great. So we'll create these kind of cursor points at the bottom and sensors at the top, and you blow the sensors to get through the door. So next thing I did was I built it in Game Maker. I absolutely love Game Maker. It's awesome for game jams. I recommend everybody learn to use it because it's very, very quick, and also you can use it for prototyping. So there's a testing phase. You go through, you test the middle nodes, and around the outside are where the lights are, because it fits better on the small screen and it looks easier to read. The art guys took a pass on it and made it look very alien-like. They took a few more ideas at it, and then we tested it on the team. I built a little exe file I could send out to the whole studio and go, hey, guys, have a play of this, let me know what you think. I also set up a little studio room in one of the meeting rooms. We closed all the curtains and got people to come in and play it. We ran several sessions with the staff. We had varying difficult levels. We didn't give them any information. They just went in, and we wanted to figure out how intuitive it was and how intuitive was the UI itself. Mostly, is it fun? And what came back was it wasn't. It wasn't fun, and it also wasn't intuitive because the job of the UI was much more difficult. So when I was explaining the game earlier, I was like, there's sensors and there's things that you have to do. You have to explain to the user what a sensor is and what a light is and why you have to blow it and what the alarms are. And when you have to do that quickly on a small screen, that gets very, very difficult. Some found it very easy to grasp, and others found it very, very difficult, and they struggled no matter what we did. It was very dependent on the type of person. People who were heavy on memory were absolutely fine with it. So a discovery made at the time was we'd put keypads in, really simple keypads. You go up to them, press 4 digits, and you open the game. Now, it's a really simple idea, right? You used it in a million games. However, as soon as the alien was present, it became a big issue for players. Because they get up to it and they go, 1, 4, 6, and then they run away and they hide, and then they see the alien go past, and they creep back to the pad and they put in the number again. There's a really good video of Jim Sterling on Jimquisition where he does a playthrough of this, and he has 3 or 4 attempts at just putting in a 4-digit number that he absolutely knows, and he just can't do it because he's so terrified. So we're thinking, well, if people are scared enough they can't enter in 4 numbers, we've got to really rethink our approach to this game. So the memory game was a good idea, but standalone it didn't quite work. There's this thing called Miller's Law, which is your short-term memory is limited to kind of around 7 items, and it's kind of plus or minus 2 depending on the type of person you are. As a player, you're thinking about objectives, current positions, inventory, stuff that's happening in the story, ammo. This is all on your mind, and on top of that, we're saying, remember these numbers so you can go through this thing, and it just didn't quite gel with the player. So adding more wasn't fun in any way. The bottom line was this prototype didn't suit the game, which kind of sucked because we put in a lot of work into making this and we built it in the game. So we needed a redesign. We needed to simplify it. We wanted to use a twin-stick interface to make it a bit more skill-based. The user doesn't have to store any information, and the interface needed to be very simple. So we had code input, and the idea was that if we could get some kind of tuning system, that might be better. So you tune in a signal and enter in a code. So our lead UI designer, John McKellen, who's a retro gamer and visual genius, he was trying to tune in an old Mega Drive, a Sega Mega Drive on his TV to get the picture on while he was trying to press pause to get the game running. And he was like, this is hacking. This is exactly what I need to do. I need to tune this picture in to see the thing so I can do it. So the manual tuning became a game in itself. We developed a kind of 2-stage puzzle, where you use the left stick to tune in and the right stick to find the thing you needed to enter. This is the mechanic directly behind what you're seeing in the game. So the player would move the red stick around. If they found the green area, it would stop, and they had to hold it within the green area while they entered in the code. And then we expanded the green area to the yellow area, because when people are moving one hand, the other hand tends to wobble a bit. We came up with a completely new interface completely new design for the interface. We had codes that appeared across the middle. And then we rescanned it to be like the film. We used a lot of iconography from the films and the exact emblems they used on the self-destruct system. We put that in the game. It was like, okay, there it is. It feels a lot better. We can put it in the world. It feels good. but players still weren't quite getting it. It was too visual. It was too detailed, and it didn't work in standard def. And when you've got this tiny little thing in the world, you couldn't make out those things. It was purely call and response, and dexterity under pressure was the only real challenge that you had. So John, being the constant doodler he is, was watching a progress bar on the game as he was building, and he started drawing on bits of paper. And he drew these shapes. And he realized if he put those shapes together, it became like a kind of primitive capture system. You had to look at it and decode where the shapes begin and where the shapes ended. And this was taking exactly the same mechanic and just reskinning it and making it different. So what we did was we put this straight into the game to see how it would work. He made these into these little objects. We replaced the number and the key set and stuck it into the game. And this is what we ended up with. We put it in the world, and we're like, right, we'll see how this goes. That's the comparison, and you can see directly there how different they are. This, you can't really make out the symbols, and it's obviously even worse on the screen. But here it's a lot clearer, which really helped us. So it's important to consider the context and create the user stories behind what your player is going to do. The offline prototyping really helped us do this, and it saved time and money. Despite a redesign, everyone was able to quickly discover what worked and what didn't. You can't always get to the fun by iterating. If you've got an idea and you keep developing it and you're still not quite getting there, sometimes it's not right. Don't be afraid to throw out your first, second, or your 100th idea, time and money permitting, if you need to, because sometimes it's a good idea to just do that early and find out what you need to do. And John would like me to notify you all that watching progress bars is a perfect time to sketch symbols. So free industry advice there. So the feature debut was during a press event. We actually got a bunch of people from the press to come in and see the game for the first time. And none of them really knew what we were working on. And one thing I thought was brilliant, was that normally when you demo a game to the press for the first time, you give them a big speech, you give them a presentation on what you're trying to aim for, you show them a big CG video, and then everyone goes out for dinner and hangs out. So these guys came in to see Alien for the first time, and they'd never seen what we were up to before, and there was about 2 days of 50 journalists. And we got them into the room, and our creative director, Al, says, okay, we've been working on an Alien game. And the journalists were like, Alien, cool. Ugh. And then he said, and we're going to let you play it. And everyone went, what, play it? And he's like, yep, if you'd like to follow me. And we took all the journalists into a room, and they played what we had. And one by one, they came out of this room like, okay, And what I thought was incredible was they all came out one by one and started talking to each other. And they were having conversations like they'd just been playing Battlefield or Halo multiplayer. And they were like, oh my God, I was here and this thing came around the corner. He's like, you came around the corner? I came out there and the wall exploded. Like, the wall didn't explode in my version. And they were trading all these stories about their experiences that were so different. I was really impressed with the system we built. But this also meant that our hacking game got tested by the press as well. And the response was absolutely amazing. People said it felt like it belonged in a situation. It was even called out in a couple of previews. So it was like a tiny little minigame actually got referenced by these reporters. So I was really happy. And of course, adding the alien to any interaction meant the tension and fear of panic just went straight up. So another part of the game I feel added a lot to it was the save points in the world. Now these were manual save points. For those who haven't played the game, in the game you had to walk around and locate these save points and activate them to be able to save. There was no pause the game and get out to save. It was all within the environment. You had to find one, insert your card, wait for a bit, and then the save was complete. But this wasn't always the case in the game. We had auto and manual points. We had, well, you go through a door and it saves automatically because you don't want to lose a bunch of progress, and this is going to happen before you get into this area because it makes sense for the code. The mission saves automatically when it's started and completed, and if you die, you come back to a soft save. And my approach, was kind of like, well, it works in Dead Space, it works in Uncharted, works in all these other games. We don't need to mess with it. It works fine. And I had, several feelings that we didn't need to put lots of work into this to make it better because it just kind of worked. Does anyone know what this is? How about if I do this? No one? I'm at the back there. What? Gears of War Active Reload. I now make out by the silhouette that was Alex. Good work, Alex. This is the Gears of War Active Reload system. Now, for those who don't know, this was added to Gears of War in an attempt to make reload more exciting. What it did was, when you pressed a button, instead of reloading the game, this bar went across, and if you pressed it again quickly, that exact line there, you got more damage in your weapon, and you got a quick reload, and suddenly you were like, yeah, and your character went, yes, and you're like, oh, right, I've done it. What I loved about it was if you got it wrong, your gun jammed, and your character goes, no, and there's all this stuff coming at you, and you can't operate your weapon, and suddenly you're really, really panicked. So this one button push that used to be just a common thing in video games, you just mash it to reload as kind of like just a reaction, suddenly added a huge level of emotion and stress and risk, reward, and success. And I think it's one of my favorite game mechanics of all time. So with our save system, we had a couple of issues where some of our saves, when some of the saves were occurring, the alien was in a strange place and it was breaking things. So if the alien was halfway out of a vent, it wouldn't quite work. Or if you walked through a save and the alien was behind you and you loaded it, the alien was still behind you and killed you. And we're like, oh, we've got to figure this stuff out. So Simon Adams, one of our senior designers, is a huge Dark Souls fan. Now, as a design director, I kind of like to know what games people are into because it heavily influences their design style. And I was like, Dark Souls, I'm not sure we want to punish the player that much. But he was saying we should do manual saves. Leave it to the player. If the player goes and finds a save point, it's down to them. If they can find it and use it, it's cool. And if they don't, they get killed and they lose hours of progress. And I was like, I'm not sure. I really wasn't sure about it. So what Simon did was he built a manual prototype to test this. He just made a system where you pressed X to save, he turned off the auto checkpoints, and we played the level. And what we were really surprised about is it completely changed the way we played the game. Because all of a sudden we weren't just running and knowing we were going to die and come back. We were being really careful because we knew we had to get through it. And if we lost our progress, we'd have to do it all again. And suddenly add to the sense of loss each time you died. And then, you know, you had this fear of losing progress. There was a risk element because the longer you went without a save, the more you got nervous because you're like, it's been a while since I've seen one. And there was an incredible sense of relief when you saw a save point in the world. When's the last time you opened up a game and paused it and went, a save menu, thank God. You know, it was just a regular mechanic that's in most games that we put in that you find, and it just gave this huge emotional response. So I was like, I think this is kind of working. So Simon wasn't quite done yet. He actually went further with it. He took one of the animations, and he swapped the press into X interaction for a insert card one that we had already for operating certain doors. He put a delay in it, and he added countdown lights. So what happened was you went up to this machine, you put in the card, the lights went blip, 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 and then it saved. Now, when you're hiding from an alien, and there's all this tension in the world, and you whip out this card, and you just want to save, and those 3 lights are taking their goddamn time, all of a sudden, saving itself, just the action of saving, is like, come on, come on, come on. And we added a little warning that said, enemies may be near. So if you did really want to save and risk the chance of getting killed next time you load, you really could. It's added a huge amount of tension and fear. And it was now an emotional response. It added so much to the game. It went from, you know, it works fine to adding emotion. So sometimes you do need to explore mechanics and do need to listen to people, because I would absolutely love to say, this was all my idea, but it was all Simon. And Simon always tells me that I should stop telling people that, because some people absolutely love it, some people absolutely hate it, and they always blame him for that. So, games go through an absolute lot of changes through development. You can change a lot of things about the game, the narrative, the characters, the levels, the size, the scope, the mechanics, absolutely everything. And what I want to do is show you a video here. If I can ask to stop the roll. Hands up, what did you notice? Third person. The same, third person. Motion capture? There was motion capture, but that was in the final, but we did use a lot of it. Yep. Yep. Shitty graphics? No, to be fair, that's the codec. I've got to get it on my laptop, so there's much better graphics in it. Different name, correct. So we had so much different games, actually different characters, different story, different locations. Everything changed about that game. But one of the things that didn't change was the vision. I think you can tell from the tone of the video. It still feels like the same game. It still feels like that feeling of the first film, and that's what we kept constant through the whole game. And with that vision there, you can build your whole game around it, and everyone can concentrate on the same thing. So what we ended up with was our believable, unpredictable alien. We had longevity in the encounters, and the abilities gave us enough to stretch the game out and make little encounters feel different and varied. The systemic behaviours meant that there were different and varied experiences for all players and between playthroughs as well. There was clear communication from the alien, meaning we were able to maintain the immersion of the game. And the level design supporting the core concept of the alien being anywhere was an absolute vital thing, because at no point in the game did you feel safe. And the environmental interactions, such as hacking and saves, supported the game and the tone by just being the mechanics they were. They made you feel the emotions that were in line with the main vision. And this was all wrapped up in a narrative that, with the setting, they'd been carefully crafted to tell the story that we wanted to tell. And that slide has been duplicated. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. So yeah, there was a lot of changes, but the core vision was always there. We made sure that's the game we wanted to make, and that maintained from the beginning to the end. And that's it from me. Thank you very much. Now, my clock there says no time, but oh, it's changed. I've got 9 minutes. Who'd like to ask some questions? Oh, there's a lot of questions. Okay.
I was just wondering, how did...
Oh, cease. See his tension building. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I was just... Turn it on again. Okay, yeah.
There we go.
I was just wondering, how did you, like, come up with, let's just make an Alien game? Where did that come from?
The Alien game, the concept of the project came from the guys working at Creative Assembly. It actually started before I joined the team. And I was lucky enough to play a small slice of what they were building in my interview. And I was like, oh, I need to work on this game. This is going to be absolutely incredible. And I ranted about how good it would be on the team. And yeah, I managed to get the job, which was amazing. But the actual concept came from the team who they were working, they just finished making a game. And they were thinking, well, what can we come up with next? And they realized that Sega owned the Alien IP. And they're like, you know what, we could build an Alien game just based on the first film. So they built the prototype I got to see, and they sent it to Sega, and they're like, what do you reckon to an Alien game with just one alien in it? And Sega absolutely loved the idea, and the little pitch almost went viral through Sega. And because of that, they said, yep, you got the go-ahead, build the team, make this game. So it was an exciting time. Wait. Yeah.
Yeah, so I was wondering, when did you decide for the first time to introduce, because I know when you introduced the alien in the game, but when was that like okay, this is where we're going to introduce the alien for the first time?
So how did we decide where to pace to introduce the alien?
Yeah.
Okay, so one thing we as a group noticed a lot about horror games is in horror films, there's a very slow introduction. There's a very slow build-up. There's a lot of tone and character building and setting for the location. And the first Alien film did this really, really well. It's absolutely ages before anything even goes wrong in that film. And we wanted to make that happen in our game. We wanted to make you get used to the world you were in and really slowly introduce you and just like... You knew the game was called Alien, so you knew there was an alien coming, but we wanted to prolong that as long as possible. So it was a very deliberate decision to make that not happen for a while. The actual pacing to the game was changed a lot through development as we, scoped levels and got rid of some areas. There was entire areas of the game we had to cut out, and that's a regular thing on development teams because you get to a scoping point and you're like, we're not going to be able to make all this. Which bits do we cut and which bits do we keep? And sometimes it's even areas you've worked on for absolutely ages, but they don't quite fit, or they require more work than it would be to start something else from scratch. And as a designer, you just have to go, yep, fine, we'll get rid of it. It's part of the job. So we knew roughly where we wanted it to happen, and as we got through to kind of putting the whole game parts in and getting the structure of what we needed, we knew exactly where we needed it to occur. So yeah, I think it felt, the first half of the game, I thought the pacing was a lot stronger. Next question, down here. Oh wait. Who's talking?
Well, yeah. Really quickly, the ideas, the theme, and the drive of games. Where do they usually start? Where does the project come to birth, sort of?
Projects can start in absolutely multiple ways. I mean, sometimes you can have somebody's making a film and they'd like a game for it, and then they hunt for a studio to make that game. Other times you can have a designer with an idea that pitches that idea, and then that idea gets made. I've been fortunate to work on a few projects myself where I've just been working on a team. I've had an idea, I've put together a little pitch, I've got some people to make a prototype, we've showed it to management, and they've gone, yeah, okay, yeah, well, you guys can have a team to make that game. So games can come from all over. Sometimes it's a requirement from, like, a company like Hasbro will say, we're looking for some ideas that might suit some of our board games or some of our IPs. Let's enter into a deal and see what we can make. Other times people come to external publishers, or people like you will just develop a game yourselves, and a publisher will go, I'd like some of that, let's publish it. So there's lots of different places games can come from. And I think it's interesting to see how games are created and where they end up, because quite often the initial idea you come up with is very, very different from what you end up shipping with. There was one here?
How did the release of Colonial Marines during your development of Isolation
Have the screen back on.
Isolation influence your process, because that game was not as creatively successful?
So the question was, Colonial Marines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, someone always asks that question. And now I don't work for Sega, I can tell you guys what I really think. No. Well, I'll be completely honest. As the thing about Colonial Marines that was most impacted our team was we were making the game at the same time they were making theirs, and we were really worried that they were going to make something that was the same as what we were doing. We were, we're seeing screenshots that looked kind of survival horror-y, and we were just like, we hope this doesn't do what we're doing. So when it came out and it was all action and all guns and explosions, we were like, oh, cool, that's great. Actually, that's fine. The reaction to it was like, people are really, really passionate about Alien. That's really full on. And we were looking at all these forum posts with people saying, why can't aliens be scary? And why can't there be a single alien? And why doesn't someone make just a survival horror game? And we're in our studio going, I just want to, I'm going to open a post and I'm going to type it and I'm going to delete it, because we can't say anything about it. You work in secret for so long that when you finally get to talk about the game, you're like, check out what we're doing, and that's partly why we showed the game to the press, just let them play it, because I could stand and explain to you that a single alien in a game is going to be very scary, but until you see the execution of the idea, you don't actually know. So proving that with the software was really, really important. I'm going to get Alien Colonial Marines off.
Yeah, hi. Were there any interesting I forgot the word. Emergent behaviors in the Alien, and if so, what are a good example of that?
So the emergent behaviors, we built a lot of things based on things that we were playing. So we tested the game a lot and figured out what the alien was capable of. And the flamethrower one came from when we knew we wanted the player to get the flamethrower, what could it do? And the keeping the alien backstage, that kind of came out of the idea of just realizing the alien was stuck, and removing the alien from the scene a lot more was more scary. So I think the emergent things we saw in the game were people able to string out the different things they were using in interesting ways to kind of keep the alien at bay. And the thing that really, we weren't quite sure about it, because you're role-playing as Amanda Ripley, right? And Amanda Ripley is not an evil person, and she doesn't want to blow up the station and kill everybody. That's why there's such a problem. Like in the Alien films, Ripley blew up the ship because there was no one on it. She's in a situation where there's people still alive on the station. She's not just going to kill all them just to kill this alien. So we want people to feel like they're that character and do that thing. But when people realize that they could get a noisemaker, throw it underneath a bunch of humans and go, and then the alien comes down and just destroys them all, they were like, I'm not sure Amanda Ripley would do that. But people had a lot of fun with it, and we're just like, well, better them than me. Like one thing we did with the game was we made sure that all of the humans in the game, they was both friendly and they were both evil, because we didn't want them to just be everybody was going to kill you. It's not like Uncharted where everybody is your enemy and you have to shoot everybody. We wanted you to approach people and go, are these guys good? Are these guys bad? And it to feel like it was real life, because people weren't going to try and kill you. They were just defending themselves. So even if they were aggressive, they'd aim a gun at you and say back off. And if you were like, that's cool, and walk away, they never attacked you. So we had loads of little bits of systems where interacting with androids and humans, and the alien would cause all these different emergent behaviors to trigger. So yeah, it was quite cool.
Okay.
Wait.
we have to stop there so we can have time for the next one. But
Okay, well, I'll be around.
if
yeah,
you do
so-
want to answer more questions, yes, we have a half-hour break after the next talk. So you guys just grab hold of him then.
All
Well,
right.
thanks again.
Thank you very much.